Welcome and thank you for joining. Today you will learn how Arcadia built HITRUST CSF-certified platform using AWS technologies and services. This platform is used to manage healthcare records for more than 100 million patients and to process terabytes of data every single day. I would like to introduce our speakers. My name is Anton Hridzin. I'm AWS Solutions Architect, and for the past year I was lucky to work with Arcadia team. And today with me we have Jonathan Cook, Chief Technology Officer with more than 20 years of experience in IT. As a CTO, John is responsible for driving company strategy and driving the implementation of this platform with his engineering and infrastructure teams. I would like to start with looking at general healthcare industry trends. Healthcare is continuously growing. According to Deloitte, by 2022, our global healthcare spend should reach 10 trillion mark. And with this growth, we see the focus of payers, providers, and consumers on a value-based care, a model where physicians, hospitals, and other healthcare providers are incentivized based on the achieving certain performance metrics. This drives more and more companies to use statistics and analytics to identify and evaluate interventions. Second trend that we see is general pressure on the companies due to rise of chronic conditions and general aging of the population in developed countries. Chronic conditions are associated with 80% of healthcare spend, and elderly patients are requiring on average 3 times more resources than younger patients. This makes companies to look into new ways to optimize the applications infrastructure and look for the cost reduction for the healthcare system as a whole. And last but not least is a rise of number of cyber attacks on healthcare companies, from the ransomware attacks to attempts to exfiltrate the PHI data. This is usually happening with due to challenges of adapting latest security practices by healthcare industry, altogether with them having the large volumes of personal information that can be used for the identity theft. So how AWS can help? AWS is a trusted technology partner for global healthcare industry. We bring more than 14 years of experience building cloud services and helping our customers build applications on top of these services. From day one, we introduced shared responsibility model, where we focus on security of the cloud, meaning underlying infrastructure, facilities, actual compute, and other building blocks, and let you as a customer focus on the security of your applications and workloads that you deploy into the cloud. To further enable our customers, we support a large variety of compliance programs and certifications, from more general ones like NIST or SOC to more specific that are specific to particular geography or industry like GDPR, HIPAA, or HITRUST. But we don't stop there. In order to help you address your part of the security requirements and compliance requirements, AWS offers a large variety of services for securing your workloads, from more common and traditional one like key management service that helps you manage your encryption keys, to more recent and advanced like GuardDuty that helps you implement threat detection and manage these threats. And with that, I would like to ask John to describe how it all works together in practice on an example of Arcadia.
Thanks, Anton. Really excited to talk to you today about Arcadia and AWS. So a little bit about Arcadia to start. We're a leading platform that's enabling healthcare transformation across the country. So as healthcare payment models have evolved, the key to transformation relies on data, really big data. and we're a leader in this space. This is recognized by us driving 2.5 times better results for our customers. We're also recognized by analysts being number one in the industry 2 years in a row. So we're super excited about that. But with all of that comes the mere fact that, like you said, we've got 100 million patients in our platform, actually more than 100 million patients. So data privacy and security is our number one priority. And this is really illustrated with the fact that we recently went through an end-to-end HITRUST certification. So over the next couple minutes, I plan on discussing our partnership with AWS and how that's enabled us to be agile, innovative, and market leading, also while meeting the strictest healthcare security requirements out there. So to start a little bit about Arcadia and our mission, as I mentioned, our payment, the healthcare payment model transformation is really the key to all of healthcare transformation. And as a part of that, return on investment is needed. And that's our business. Basically, we're ensuring that there's a realistic ROI for our customers for their efforts that they exert, right? And we're really, really lucky because we've assembled a huge customer community that's made up of pioneers of care delivery and transformation. This is folks like Intermountain, University of Texas, Beth Israel, and Cigna, just to name a few. So together, Arcadia with these pioneering customers have emerged as healthcare market leaders. And basically, I'll show you in a moment that Arcadia's data platform, the teaming of thousands of data sources across trillions of records being refreshed and processed daily, is the mechanism that drives this reporting. This reporting ends up being the asset that these pioneer leaders use in order to transform healthcare. And with that, I just want to give you basically a view of what the industry looks like. So in key actors, you think about healthcare transformation, it requires input from actors all across the industry. So that's administrators that need real-time insights or performance or hotspot indicators. That's coders and risk navigators that need AI-assisted chart review. That's automated work queues. That's care teams. That's what you think of as your providers, your doctors and your nurses that need data at their fingertips during their normal daily workflows. Arcadia's platform and our products really solve all of those. But as we developed the platform, we intentionally focused on how do we help our customers accelerate results, right? And we developed our platform with our customers to focus on this. And our customers are really, really proving this works. They're leading the pack in healthcare outcomes. They're doing things that are very tangible, like meaningfully reducing the care of Medicare contracts, which in turn gives them huge financial results. They're also improving risk coding scores, which drives greater revenue. And they're also leading the market in healthcare outcomes. And really, the headline of all of this is this all demonstrates that you can reduce the cost of care without sacrificing outcomes. And that's our business. So with that, I want to dive into the platform. So let me give you a quick view of the software development lifecycle of our data, how our data goes through our platform. Everything starts at the bottom. You see we have a customer icon there. It starts and ends with the customer. So we have to get data into the platform. Once we get it into the platform, it's in our AWS cloud. We have to clean it and enrich it. We have to do real-time plus batch. Some data has to be really fast. Some data we can batch and we can do calculations on maybe a weekly or monthly basis. We push that into a master data catalog and an inspect schema, which I'll talk about. And then we put layers of gateways over top that drive other applications, which is our core application suite. And then at the end, this is the sexy part that everyone sees. It's the application that you work at, right? That's what our customers are using. But all of that has to occur before we can use the application. So just to illustrate this fact, I want to show you what the challenges, what are the biggest challenges with healthcare data. This is a real client scenario. We've got a client here that has over 100 independent data sources that span over 50 different schemas. So that's 100 different physical locations, 50 different schemas. We have to get that into that platform I just talked about. That's terabytes of data that we have to refresh daily, if not faster. So just as you solve that beast, sales calls and goes, hey, the client just called and they just merged with another organization or they expanded their range of value-based care. And now they have 196 new sources that span 25 different schemas, and we need to get that in as quickly as possible. So you can see that this dynamically can change overnight. And this is what we call the Black Friday problem in healthcare, which I'll talk about in a second. So the Arcadia technology story, at the very top is table stakes. Security, reliability, availability. These are all things that all of us technologists worry about. But we are really worrying also about innovation, time to market, and then again, I can't understate it, security. We're dealing with private health information. We also were worried about how to be attractive to advance talent out in the market. How do we attract that talent in that wants to work on our gear and work on our software? How do we execute and train on this software, right? How do we have new developers come in and instantly know how to use this? And when you're a pioneer in a market like we are, we're pioneering processes and software, but we're dealing with data that is highly sensitive. So we needed to worry about that constantly, right? And then that Black Friday problem, which is, when I'm bringing in a new client, I could be dealing with 100 data sources with 15 years of data on each data source. The second I get that tamed and into our cloud, the next day, I'm only dealing with a 24-hour delta. So the amount of infrastructure I need on day one versus day two could be 100-fold difference, and I need that dynamic capability. This is where AWS came in. This is the benefits that we saw at AWS, coming into AWS and working directly with AWS, and Anton, with you as an architect. So, first off, we're exchanging sensitive data and you need trust. Our clients have to trust us, and basically, we have to trust who we're using as our cloud provider. One of the first things that we noticed, and we know from working with AWS, is that you have security and compliance certification that is a mile long. What I always joke with my team is that you have more certification and compliance than I have enough staff to actually manage it all. So you handle that for us. But that ties right into the shared responsibility model. You handle the security in the cloud, and then we have to focus on some things, which we'll talk about in a second. I have a slide on that. But also automation of provisioning. Just because you have a compliance in place doesn't mean that your staff are going to execute it the exact same way every time. It was great the day the auditor was there. What happens next week? AWS has an API almost for everything. It allowed us to automate these compliances. It allowed us to automate how we provision things to ensure that it was repeatable, ensure that it met our security compliance criteria. Also, auditing of infrastructure and activity, super important in security, right? AWS out of the box gave us amazing audit, through your guardrail, through CloudWatch, CloudTrail. We're seeing things, we're getting that data for free. We're not having to build that, and we're seeing the activity. Like I said, the Black Friday problem, we need to enable the speed of new infrastructure as fast as possible. I need to be able to pull up new infrastructure, pull in 15 years worth of data, and then next day I need to roll that back. My old adage is I can do this on AWS faster in production than I used to be able to get a price from an old hardware vendor back in the day when we did that. And then dynamic provisioning, the supportive costs. Hey, I need 800 servers today. Tomorrow, I need a fraction of that. Because of on-demand and auto-scaling, I'm able to do that. The other thing a lot of people forget about is that by getting rid of those servers tomorrow that I don't need, I've reduced my security footprint. Those are not servers I have to worry about as a hacking target any longer because I got rid of them. And last and definitely not least, knowledge and skill sets and documentation. AWS's white papers were fantastic for us. It's very, very deep knowledge. But the other thing that we noticed is that out in the community, almost everyone else is writing a tutorial on how to do something in AWS. The wealth of knowledge out in the internet is absolutely amazing. We really, really found that useful, not only in security, but in innovation. So these were the benefits that, at least the core benefits that we saw. Security primer, if you're listening to this, you probably know what HIPAA is. Generally, we're worried about protecting healthcare information. HIPAA is a lot more than that for any security auditors out there, so bear with me. And then HITRUST is a newer framework that is basically a framework that goes around a lot of criteria that has existed in other frameworks. So it covers commercial, federal, state, regulations all in one nice package. It's an extremely high bar to go through, and we're very proud to have reached end-to-end HITRUST certification using AWS as our infrastructure. So this is the shared responsibility model that I talked about. Our security auditors love this, and they love how much AWS gives you for free. So for example, if you look at AWS handles the security of the cloud, and that out of the box gave us 38 basically free criteria checks and our HITRUST certification. Now, a lot of people, when I say that, go, John, it's only 38 out of 700. I'm going to take whatever you can get in this. But here's the catch. The customer's responsible for security in the cloud. That's us. Even the security in the cloud that we manage, because AWS has automated so many things and documents how they do things, we were able to prove testing of actual criteria in our area using AWS things. This is like patch management. When AWS updates a machine image and they push that out, AWS's process for doing that and how we're enabled through the APIs enabled the auditor to quickly understand how we were doing this when they were doing our evaluation. So big thanks to this model. Also, just a note, just because you put it in AWS doesn't mean it's secure. You have responsibility too, so make sure you read that white paper and look at that part of their website. So this is where we get into the guts of the technology, right? This is a slide I'm not going to go through in depth. It's a little bit of an eye chart. We know that. But I'm going to just give you kind of a orientation to it. On the left-hand side is how we get data in, and as you move right is how we start layering apps on top, right? So you have integration and then basically your app layer on top. For today, I'm going to really focus on the green section here. It's green outline. This is our data ingestion. This is the largest portion of our data. And frankly, it's where all the data lives that the apps ride on. So with that, I'm going to really dive down into that and talk about what we use from AWS to achieve these innovative results to drive value for our customers. So to start off with, we have a data gateway section, and then we have a streaming service that works over top of that. So we have to get data in. One of the things we use is AWS IoT Core. This was fantastic. Right out of the box, we had shadowing so we could see what these things were doing. We also had digital certificates right out of the box. We have a digital fingerprint. So if someone takes one of those agents, moves it somewhere else, we can tell that they actually did that. If you're sending out EXE, folks, and they're moving it around, it's a little bit tricky to do that. We got it out of the box with AWS. It was fantastic. Then we drop it down onto S3. I always joke and say that S3 is one of the wonders of the world. There's the China wall, and then there's S3. We drop the data down onto S3, and that is kind of, for any old school folks out there, our DMZ. We're getting data in, and we're dropping it down. Just notice the very top, I put some VPC indications on that. My security auditors and team will not let me show you exactly how I do our VPCs for security reasons. What I can tell you is that we do layered security. It's kind of an industry standard. We all do it, right? So I guarantee you that we are doing layered security throughout. So your DMZ coming in versus your data processing versus your data storage versus enrichment. We're using VPCs plus some other things I'll show you in a moment that we do to secure these things. Once that data is in, you'll see I've lighted up a Lambda and some S3 and EC2 scaling. Like I said earlier, those EC2s don't even exist. That data lands, the EC2 that's running when it's processing the data wakes up, basically doesn't even wake up. We're actually provisioning it. So that Lambda fires off and goes, hey, data landed. What size is the data? We do t-shirt sizes. Extra large t-shirt size of data came in. It calls off, it fires off the autoscaler. It starts firing up EC2s to process that data. So now we didn't have a security footprint. Now it comes up, we start processing the data, and it's auto-scaling based on that t-shirt size. As it's processing, the other thing it's doing is it's sending data into another secured area. We're using individual buckets and individual encryption keys across clients in different areas. That Lambda is seeing a file being dropped. It's firing off another EC2 to do another step. And that's just the repeated process that we do to get our data basically where we want it. The other thing that we're doing, if you look at the very top, is we're utilizing the Amazon SQS service. We also use SNS in tandem with SQS. That's sending messages between the different components to let them know that the data is working through the work stream, through the work steps, right? Now we're getting near the end, right? So at this point, data's dropped for the final run of the last enrichment, and it's hitting S3. Again, we're using Lambdas. This is beautiful. You drop data on S3, it triggers an event that can basically send an SQS event. So we didn't have to build any of this. AWS gave it to us, right? Basically, it's telling Glue, pick up those files, process it, put it into Elasticsearch so that it's searchable. So now I have hundreds of millions of patients that are groomed in a single schema. I'm putting in an Elasticsearch to make a blazing fast speed, a search across that. By the way, we used to run our own Elasticsearch clusters and we switched over to Amazon's Elasticsearch service. And it's fantastic. One, being able to scale is so much easier. Two, right out of the box, it gave us some security criteria that you can't get on the open source Elasticsearch products. So you should definitely look into that if you're running your own Elasticsearch. The other thing to note, at the very top, I lit up an API gateway. Right out of the box, API gateway gives us a RESTful API to connect into the Elasticsearch as well as connect into that patient data. Obviously, that's secured. We're running that through our own IDP to basically do role-based security, and then that is driving all of our applications. So you can see that we've lit up all of these services. These are all things we didn't have to build. These are all things that all of our technicians knew coming in, so there wasn't a lot of training because the vast knowledge on the internet. So we're very thankful to AWS for the tools that they've given us. Last and definitely not least, we overlay on all of this. We're overlaying CloudWatch and CloudTrail. We're getting massive amounts of logs. The other thing that we do is we use AWS tools to look at the logs ourselves, but we send it to a third-party trend advisor as well, and they're running their own machine learning on it, so we get a second set of eyes on what's going on. Super easy to do that because they are in the AWS marketplace and they basically are able to pick up the data out of S3. So it's really, really easy to do. Guard duty is kind of watching over top of it for us. And the trusted advisor, a lot of people overlook this, but this isn't a great executive dashboard to get you a quick, I call it a sniff test. What's going on across your AWS account? Super easy thing to use. And they update it all the time and add new, basically new criteria. The identity and access management, your IAMs, throughout that entire process, we're using individual service accounts and individual controls so that we're segmenting the security across that. Right out of the box, AWS is designed to do that, and it's designed basically to conform that to each one of those services so that we're able to really dial in security. And then last but not least, we're dealing with data that we have to encrypt. We need some way to manage our keys, and KMS allows us to do that. We didn't have to build it or buy it, go buy a vault or something. KMS allows us to bring our own keys and or use their keys. It's integrated into the environment, so we're super, super helpful. So the summary of all this is that to do what we do and to be a market leader, you need data sets, and they're growing at exponential pace. You need to be able to be dynamic. This also required very tight partnership between us and our business units, but also between us and our infrastructure group. And Anton, having you on our team basically helping us out as well as the people you pulled in was fantastic. We need a hyperscale platform because I showed you the data volumes are changing all over the place. We need to be able to transform that data. And we're dealing basically being on the bleeding edge of healthcare, value-based care criteria. So the policy and the regulation is changing. Even HITRUST didn't exist 10 years ago, and now you have HITRUST with new criteria. And then you're pulling in new data, and you have to figure out how you're going to do that. So we needed the ability to do all of these things very fast. And AW enabled us to be responsive to our customer needs and to be able to hit this market. And it enabled us, most importantly, to do innovation with market-leading privacy and a compliance program. So with that, that's an overview of what we did. And Anton, I kind of want to put it back to you. And I thank you and AWS for working with us to achieve what we did. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Anton. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, John, for this insight and for continued partnership. And for those still watching, thank you for joining in and learning how you can build HITRUST certified platform on top of AWS. If you would like to learn more about Arcadia products or AWS services and solutions that you can use to secure your workloads and your applications, please follow the QR codes on the screen. Additionally, in healthcare track, we have more sessions that you might find useful for your company. From deep dive into third-party offerings that can help you simplify the compliance journey to the conversation around use of AI to automate clinical workflows. With that, I would like to say thank you, hope to see you on more sessions, and have a wonderful reInvent.